You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
What is up?
We're both up. I kind of like that little music there. Just
Good. We picked it.
I got you a new angle today at my office, Andrew.
I like it.
Yeah.
Are those all of the properties that you own behind you, or?
No, I don't have good enough pictures for mine. These are other properties that I've sold. Yes.
That's cool.
At least features of other properties I've sold. These are some of my favorite photos that we've done. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of inspirational. That's good.
There you go. There you go.
I'm currently in a hostel. How do you guys like this little backdrop?
I like it.
I don't know. Those hostels. I was in a hostel once with a buddy of mine, me, my wife, and him and his wife, and he set it up because he was at the Royal School of London for medicine and no money. And so all of a sudden we go to this place. So I'm like, there's not a chance I am staying at this joint. I mean, there was like one toilet per floor and then like one shower in the whole place. And I'm like, there's no way I'm doing it. And as I'm walking out the door, the guy's screaming at me and I'm like, no more. Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, it's a hit or miss. You got to really read the reviews, but it also depends on who's in your room. Like one time I got punched in the middle of the night, but overall I've had some good experiences in these hostels.
You got punched in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Do we dare ask why?
Are you serious?
Snoring. He was running the Paris Marathon the next day, and I told him before, like, hey, I snore, but this is my first time in a hostel. Just lightly tap me if I'm snoring too loud. And I woke up with like a bruised eye, and I talked to him the next morning. It was interesting.
Oh my God!
Did you punch him in the eye?
You just let that happen? I can't believe you just let that go.
I barely remembered. I was hazy. Thought it was like a dream. In the morning, I wasn't too happy, but
yeah.
I'll keep it with the trend. Show you guys a couple of little things. My recent travels in Alicante and in Valencia.
Looks horrible.
Supposedly the Holy Grail in Valencia. If I like it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Pretty cool, my friend.
Interesting. It's really neat when your kid has done 20 times more than you've ever done in your life, and he's only 26. It's kind of sad.
It's a different lifestyle, Chris, when you're a professional football player.
Yeah. Yeah. We should have
been pro athletes.
I think I'm going to Champlin for lunch today. I'm going to take a video of it too. Good.
Where are you headed to?
Well, you have a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Of course.
Yeah. So, where else would I go?
Yeah, they had that Olympic athlete, the gal from Isanti, here yesterday, and they were parading her around on fire trucks, and then they brought her the local gymnastics. What do they call it, Lisa? Twin City Twisters, and they've produced a couple Olympic level athletes out of there. Anyway, so they brought her there, and the whole town. She was holding her silver medal, and everybody was cheering. It was really cool.
Oh.
So. Her name was Grace what? McCown, sorry.
Gracie.
I watched her win it too. I swear to God, I just don't have a good memory of that stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
I didn't watch too much of the Olympics at all.
So I assume there's going to be a mad rush of people with money that want their kids to become Olympic gymnastics stars moving to Champlin, and I'm here to capture all that business.
Totally. Exactly. Were you on the float? Were you on the float with her?
No.
Oh.
No. Apparently, they don't get paid a lot to win those medals, so she's not quite ready to buy a house yet. So
yeah, if she's going to college, she'll probably have a bunch of endorsement deals and can get paid now.
Wouldn't that be cool for her though? What a cool way to get your college paid for or whatever. I'm sure she's on a scholarship, but still.
We got a friend of ours. She's going to Nick. You got her sister Tori Tatum. She's going to LSU on a gymnastics scholarship, and they've got someone on their team that's already up to $1 million or something a year.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Especially in the SEC, the football players making a crap ton of money. But let's get into this. So what's all happening in the market?
Sorry. We're like the old men in the cafeteria. I need a warm cup of coffee here.
What is happening in the market? I don't think much has shifted at all. I think we're still kind of in that there's a little lull going on.
Okay.
We just put on a couple new listings, more lesser priced, and we're getting good, not like it used to be where you'd have 50 showings set up, but we're getting some good pre-activity. There's a thing called coming soon, so you can kind of put it on there, show people that the listing is coming up maybe this weekend or on Friday, and they can kind of get their showing set up, and kind of is a good thing for a seller too. It kind of slows down. They know what they're dealing with, and then they can leave the property. And we really try to encourage our people, at least in the first weekend, to just kind of just get out of there, just so you can let it be shown.
Yeah, especially if you do the coming soon and you have several showings set up for the first day. It's kind of nice to just let it happen. Turn all the lights on, set the house up for success. Turn on the music, make sure all the sights, sounds, and smells are perfect, and then and then head out for the day and let people have their time. They're deciding a lot more than just price and floor plan. They're thinking about, okay, where do we put little Billy and little Sally and little they're thinking about, how do I work from home? Some of the new things I'm seeing too is people asking, like, what is your internet speed? That was something that was only asked by IT people back in the past. Now I'm having almost every house we list, people asking us, what is the connectivity with 4 people in the house, potentially, mom and dad, and then a couple kids trying to connect for school and work. All of a sudden, bandwidth is a big deal. So a lot of people are searching within their bandwidth requirements to meet the needs of their family for their jobs and school. I also had a chance yesterday, Chris, that you might find this interesting. So I've got an agent that primarily focuses in that Centerville, Lino Lakes, up, Chisago Lakes, Forest Lake, kind of up north on the northeast side of town. And she was saying that we were talking, about listings. And she was saying, how are your listings down in like Champlin and a little farther in to the city? Because she goes, some of my sellers are freaking out right now because they're, 10, 14 days on the market before they get an offer. And we both started laughing. And I said, I remember when 30 days was just like a smoke show. Just like, oh my God, it sold in under 30 days. And that's the best we've ever seen. You're an amazing agent. 4 months was the norm. 3 months is normal. And now houses, if they don't sell in 3 days, people panic. And I think that anytime temperature changes, you're in a hot tub, it's 104 degrees, and they cool it down to 99. Oh my God, it's chilly in here. It's cold, but it's still hot. I mean, I'm saying? It's like, it's all perspective.
Yeah.
So we're still in a great market.
Yeah. And I think you're going to start seeing it opening up probably by the end of next week too. I think that's historically what has happened in the past. I mean, when in a normal market, the slowdown's usually the 4th of July till the middle of August, and then it starts going again before and into school, kind of into that October. Sometimes it go into November. Usually slows down between November and Christmas, and then gets going again after the first of the year.
Yeah, we've got that Parade of Homes coming up here in September. I think it starts September 11th, and then that runs for about 6 weeks, and it's a pretty good show. And that usually, a lot of people go out and look at houses, and they're like, wow, this new construction is, it's better than it was, a couple months ago, but it's still maybe out of reach for some buyers, or I call it attainable. It's not attainable. So they start looking at other homes that might fit their needs, where that market's a little tighter, but it puts a lot of pressure back onto the amount of people looking. So it's good. It's actually a great time to list your house in the fall. coming up here in the next 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to have a new audience of people, and houses are still selling. I always recommend everybody, though, if you're thinking about selling, make sure you have where you're going figured out first.
We actually lucked out and got a dream home this year. So we were selected for that. And so that's the home that you pay money to get into. It's $5, and then they, build a house for somebody.
Those are the houses over 350,000, right?
Just a little. Yeah. This one's going to be a little over 1.8 million. But here's the other thing that's different about it that I've never had in a parade. I've been around for a little while. A pool. We actually have a pool. Yeah, so that'll be kind of fun. That kind of just gives it a different element of it. And I think it also is going to show, because what they did is they made the main floor walk out to the pool and then did a side walkout, but created that. And I think that's something that a lot of people you never get to feel that in a model home because no one puts the pool in.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me too, Chris, when you have people that are, they'll approach us with new construction and say, hey, we want to have a walkout lot. And they don't explain why. They just say they want to walk out because they want to walk out. And then you realize, well, you're also committing to a $35,000 deck. You're committing to, probably $10,000 to $15,000 more just for the lot. Plus the actual, most builders charge a little more to do a walkout versus a lookout or a flat lot. And so by the time you're done, now you have a $50,000 extra. And, some people now I'm seeing are a little wiser to how am I going to use this yard? And like you're saying, so if you have a nice, like out of the kitchen dining room area, it steps onto a flat backyard, you're accessible to the backyard. And then it can go with stairs down around the landscaping down to a sidewalk out. Sidewalk outs, I think, are one of the combinations of the best of both worlds, because then you can put it out to the side. You still get that lower level you can walk out to, and then you can still have the upper level walk out into the yard without having all the decks and all that,
That's really where you hang out. You hang out on that main floor, and so it's a definite different feel versus a deck on a full walkout that you can't see over the top and see the yard. So
yeah.
Hey, is this true? We got a comment here, and we'd love to get the listeners engaged. You have to drop the term master bedroom in his and her closets now? Is this going around in real estate?
Well, that's considered, they're like assuming that the master is like the master.
slave owner.
Yeah, like it's a slave term. And then his and hers is gender bias. And what I always say is the owner's suite. And then there's 2 closets in the owner's suite. I think most people are smart enough to do their own math.
I saw it somewhere that they said that we can't use the term master bedroom anymore. This is kind of like we used to not be able to use family room as well. I mean, I've seen family room on millions of listings. So,
well, family can be a guy and his dog. It doesn't have to be, birth.
Is this Rooney's rant? Do you want me to start on this one?
Yeah, no kidding.
No, not yet.
Inject him with some hot sauce, would you? Jeez.
Yeah.
But it is story time.
Story time. Andy, you got an issue at the closing table. I have one, and I know you've had them.
All of my closings, sir, are perfect. Mm-hmm. So we have nothing to discuss.
What about sometimes when people have moving trucks in the parking lot and or personal property in the basement still?
Happens all the time. With some of these windows being as close and as tight as they are, and especially in bigger homes where there's more stuff. I think what's interesting as we graduate from being a apartment to single family first home buyer to mid-level to executive home, they don't have a class on the fact that where do you stop calling your buddies to move your stuff out of your house, right? Like you got to get away with the college beer and pizza to get into your first house. Beyond that, it's like hire the movers, get the stuff out of there, hit the windows, let the professionals take care of it. That should be part of the equation for you moving, in my opinion. You work too hard, you've earned that money, and make that part of the expense, and just have it taken care of professionally. But in the event that doesn't happen, let's say that it's a first-time home buyer, nobody's helping them, or a first-time home seller, and they don't have a lot of help, they don't have the resources, and they're struggling. You do have to address that. You can't just go to closing and say, oh, well, let's just forget about this. It's a real issue because you have where they actually have tenant laws where if they leave their stuff there, they can say, there's a million different things they could say about having equitable possession in the property, or that they, their stuff is there, it's theirs. And so once you own it and it's changed, I think it falls under, I believe, some tenant law. You have to make everything an arrangement. Like,
dude, what's your story? Tell a real story. Tell a real story that happened to you. I'm gonna tell one, and then
you go ahead, and I'll tell mine in a second. I gotta think a little bit.
You can follow up with me. So we're at a closing, and it was a divorce situation, and we all know how that goes. And in the old days, we used to all go to the closing, okay, and we all used to sit in the same room. Well, we tried that, and we sat in there, and then they started fighting, and they were my clients, and started going at it, and it was everything other than what the closing was about. And so then we had to separate them. We just said, you know what, maybe this will be easier if we just go into a separate room together, just my clients, and then the other clients would be alone so they could sign their papers in peace. And then it started getting worse in the room. So then we split those both up and put them in different rooms. And then when the closer that was getting the signatures would go from room to room, they'd open it up, they'd be screaming at the other person across the hallway. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it was not an amicable type thing, but they did end up signing. It took quite a bit longer, but always I learned on that is to try to get all those people in which to pre-sign and do it on their own and try to go through their attorneys and get it done, because it's usually never, the house is the thing that still holds them together, and once that's gone, sometimes people that's it. And so it can get pretty interesting.
Well, I've had several occasions where they were back in the day, they were foreclosures, and I was representing the lender that was foreclosing. And towards the end of the foreclosure, crisis, some of these banks would list the houses before the people are even out of the properties. Mm-hmm. And so we would let them stay in the properties. They would literally pay these people to move, give them the money. They'd give them $8,000 to $15,000. I had one where it was a group home, and they gave them over $20,000 to help relocate everybody that was in that house. Yeah, that was Bank of America, by the way. Pretty. I was at that point very proud to be part of their organization because they were doing the right thing. They were trying to help these people, not just kick them out of the street.
That's a PR mess if they did.
Correct. And so anyway, so they were helping them move out, and of course, I probably sold a couple hundred properties for that bank, but there was several of them where the people weren't moving and they weren't leaving. And it was a case of where, there was still stuff in the garage. And the problem with that situation is that that seller doesn't have a place to put, or that person that just got lost their property doesn't have a place to put their stuff. So a lot of times we would prepay for storage, and the bank would at closing. We would give them a storage facility, delay closing 2 days, give them that facility. And then basically what happens is they move all their stuff to the facility. If they don't continue to pay that rent, obviously then the storage facility has the problem, not us. And so I've had those happen. I've had situations where mom and dad and daughter, and these people were all, let's just say, not physically fit, and they had trouble moving their stuff out of the house. But they were very mean people and mean-spirited. And so we sat there, and they looked like they didn't even try to start moving stuff out. There was stuff spread all over the yard. Looks like they set off a bomb in the house and all their stuff shot out in the yard, and they were supposed to close that day. And so we ended up closing 2 weeks after, and we just refused to close until that was out of there, because we knew with their attitude and their behavior that, just the way they were acting, that there was no way this was going to get done, and that there was no way we would have literally moved in there and they would have still been trying to move their stuff out of your yard, but you're trying to move in. And so those kind of nightmares have happened, and it's I guess the only other kind of talking about handling issues at closing, how about the house that doesn't fund? Or how about there's something happens where the wire's late in the day. You close at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the wire hasn't gone out yet, and it's not going to on a Friday. So what do you do then? So you're sitting there, and everybody signed everything, but there's no money. So the sellers are like, well, then you can't move in until it funds. And that's another one that people are like, come on, are you kidding me? And then, of course, these loan officers that don't show up at closing, they're like, hey, is there anything I can do? Let me know. I'll be there for you. I'm the closer. I'm the mortgage guy. And then they don't show up at closing because they're embarrassed because the thing doesn't fund. And then we sit there as agents trying to hold these people's hands saying, what are we going to do here?
And
a lot of times, and that it's happened to me several times where that has happened. And we end up doing move-in agreements where they'll upfront pay to move in and it's refundable if they don't spend it. But let's say it takes a week to close that house or doesn't fund for a week. They're paying rent. Anyway, is that enough, Nick?
He looks like he's starting to go rogue over there.
Weird. He's at a hostel.
Yeah, exactly.
But see,
people must have woke up. I think people.
We sound good.
Yeah. Okay. I think we are. I think our next little segment was me and Rooney.
Talk about Chris.
I think it was me.
I love this section of our show.
Yeah, the rant. Well, I'll tell you what. It's about that our wonderful government extended the moratorium on evicting tenants that aren't paying during this.
Hold on.
Oh, here he is.
I'm back.
Oh.
I'm back. I gotta play the intro for this.
Okay, I have to say the spirit.
Playing the bass for you.
The spirit of the moratorium is not a bad thing. And I'll tell you what, I'd be the first one to be helping people out if they truly weren't able to work and or got caught up in this pandemic and were sick and whatever. I'd help them. I have no problem. But I'll tell you what, I would guess 90% of the people are just using it to just not pay. And then not only not pay, but then they wreck stuff. And they have other people in there. They're throwing dogs. Like, if you can't have pets in there, they're throwing pets. I don't know if you think this is happening to me, but this is. And they have people staying over, having other people in their place. You can't do that, And it's absolutely ridiculous. It's another.
Can you, Chris? Can you file though?
What?
Can you file that these people with their credit that they're not paying?
You can do some stuff. I mean, if they're doing drugs, but you have to catch them. You got to have them on video, basically, and telling you, hey, you know what? Yeah, I was doing drugs. It's a joke. I mean, they're protecting everything they do, and it's wrong. It's so wrong. And
what is that? What do they call that? When
hold on, let me say something.
Yeah.
That these people that are owning these rental properties aren't these big corporations. These are smaller people that are getting screwed that can barely afford their payment for it. And they're gonna start losing them because they can't pay someone's rent. They bought them, they saved up all their little money and did these rental properties, try to keep them upkeep, and then they can't do it because they're not getting any rent. It's crazy.
I got a buddy of mine that they're all electricians, and over the years they bought a big apartment building together. Yeah. And that basically is their retirement income for these 4 families. And right now none of them can afford to pay their bills. Yeah. They're losing their personal houses. Yeah. It's sad because
great example.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were all self-employed individuals, and so they don't have a pension. They didn't have a 401k to fall back on. They had to do it themselves. So that's what they thought would be the good thing to do. We're tradesmen. Let's buy something. We can keep it. We can maintain it. We can take care of these good tenants. And then this happens, and they're losing their shirts. But what do they call that, Chris? When what do they call that?
Accountability or lack thereof, maybe.
No, when you file against a client when they do a bad rental agreement with you, or what?
It's an eviction. It's an eviction. I mean, that you're filing an unlawful detainer.
That's what unlawful detainer. That's the word I was looking for. So, I mean, at that point, aren't you filing that when they're breaking the lease terms? Because they don't pay doesn't mean they can break the terms of the lease.
Yeah, but then it's still they can come in and, oh my gosh, now it's a service animal. It's just a big facade. I mean, everything's a joke now, and they let them get away with it, and then you can't get into court on time. And it's just a disaster. So
are they offering any relief then to the owners?
No, nothing. Supposedly, they're going to give the owners. They're not going to give the owners. But they did that. They did that PPP fund. I mean, for companies that didn't even need it. It was just an extra income for them because most companies are doing fantastic.
Why can't they file vouchers or something and say, hey, you want to stay on this moratorium program, you got to prove that you don't have a job and you're not making money. And then you can hand in these vouchers and the government helps you that way or something.
But the other thing they're doing is they're trying to force to have these little programs that if the landlord signs up for it, that they can try to get the money for them. But you're leaving people in your rental units that are destroying them. I mean, and the rent is nothing compared to what the damage that they're doing. You know,
and that's
these people had so many people through it that my good tenants left. You know, and then I'm like, I ain't renting to them anymore. It'll stay vacant for sure. You know,
a lot of people my age, I think maybe because a lot of them are renters, not homeowners, are always talking about how evil landlords are on social media and Reddit. But they basically say that landlords don't do any work. Is that true or not?
Some don't. Some don't, but don't care for their properties, and they do, you know, but it's, I mean, you got to remember, I mean, the way tenants take care of properties are not very good as well. And so it's kind of like, well, what are we going to do? Okay, we'll fix it up so they can wreck it again. You know, so there's a fine line on that.
Well, you know, you look at like hotels. Most good hotels budget every 5 years for a complete renovation of carpet, furniture, repainting, retiling, and that's just part of the cost of the equation. That's why it costs you. It used to be $39 for a hotel, then it went to $99. Now it's, I mean, you're spending $200-300 a night for a hotel, and that's part of the equation. That's why. So rents are just going to go through the roof, and renters are what are they all going to do once this lifts? Because you know that the landlord, it's going to get horrible fast because they got to make up for the losses that they have. And unfortunately, the good tenants, the ones that pay, probably will be the ones that end up suffering in the end. So let's make them all homeowners, Chris.
Well, 100%. That's exactly what's going to happen, because that's what all of these things are. People abuse them all the time, and it's just sickening. You know, and again, the spirit of it's the right thing.
Let's make them homeowners right now. So our next segment, where should a millennial or Gen Zer buy a home in Minnesota right now? So we're talking 20 to 35 range, the cutoff, millennials and Gen Z. Where do you guys suggest the best areas to get your first home in?
You know, I always say it's not as much the area as it is what they're buying. You know, when you buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, that's, you know, apple pie baseball America right there. I mean, everybody will want that house. Those are the houses that usually stay in the most demand. Now, the neighborhoods and the school districts are important. Even if you don't have children yet, you know, being obviously a Gen Z or some younger millennials that may not have their family started yet, if that's their course of action, they might want to look at school districts. School districts, not only for their own children, but for their resale value, are very important. And then lastly, I think that, you know, there's some, remember, Chris, we had that app, I don't even know if it exists anymore, called Walk Score way back. And it used to say, like, somebody that wanted to not rely on transportation, like how transportation reliant is a property. And I know there's got to be other apps that are out there where they'll do that. They'll kind of rank that location for, can you walk and buy your groceries? Can you take a bus? Are there parks? Are there restaurants? What's amenities around you? Versus, you know, you get out to, you know, some of these farther north communities where you might be on 1 or 2 acres and everything that you do has reliance on a vehicle, right? So it's, I don't know. I think that it's, that's kind of my advice. You know, I think it's personality too. If you want to have horses, you don't want to live in, you know, Minneapolis. So
I think the answer now versus 5 years ago is very different, because I think a lot of things have changed. Number one, people don't go into work as much, and so it used to be, hey, buy a place closer to downtown. You're kind of next to all the action, but there's nothing happening down there. It's a ghost in there, and so I think Andy said earlier on one is, you know, where's there good Wi-Fi? I mean, because Wi-Fi is everything. I mean, really. I mean, you can, you know, your little walk score to the grocery store is 3 clicks away from Hy-Vee or Cub or Target or Amazon to send you groceries right now. And you really didn't have to leave your house. So safety is another big thing. You know, is it safe? You know, and where you're going. And I think that's a really big thing now for people.
It's funny you say that, because we were I was out showing a house last night, one of my favorite customers, and we always have great conversations. And they were talking about how they were using this new app called Shipped, where people grocery shop for you and shop for the store. And they go, I can always tell when it's a young guy because they don't know how to pick avocados, and they don't know how to pick what. And they go up to they just grab an avocado, throw it in the cart. They grab bananas, they throw it in the cart. And they're not paying attention like a consumer would shop. Yeah. So you are giving up that element of, I only pick the ripest melons, and you tap them and whatever. That is something that convenience sometimes overrides quality in that application. So price, quality, convenience, it's a balancing act. And so I actually this is sad to say this, but I don't grocery shop very often. So when I went grocery shopping a couple months back, just the stars aligned where I was like, I'm going grocery shopping. You never buy what I like. So I go out and I do my grocery shopping. I'm fascinated, you guys, with the amount of hot sauces, barbecue sauces, seasonings. I mean, flavored waters.
All your different bacons.
I couldn't believe it. I think I spent 3 hours at Cub walking around. I'm just like, wow. What a deal. I'm buying ribs. This is a great deal. I'm such a sucker, so I don't get the grocery shop anymore.
I know. It gets expensive. I do that too. I get in that butcher shop and I just like, ooh, that one looks good. This one, that one. But it is, and I think entertainment, like your own entertainment from like lakes and trails and biking areas and stuff like that. But I think safety is a big thing. Yeah. And that'll probably come up later when we talk about different cities.
I still like your idea there where you walk up and you get to see that big porterhouse sitting there and you say, hey, throw that on the grill for me. They do it with lobsters. Why can't they do it with our steaks? Get a nice window and you walk up and you say, I want that one.
Pick it out.
Yeah.
Out of the blood.
Come on, restaurateurs. Let's get it together.
Yeah. Well, those are going to be closed up pretty soon too. Oh, that's another thing. Go ahead.
Let's move on. Let's move on to our game time. These have been amazing segments. This one, I got 5 cities, and you guys are going to sell us on why you should move to that city. And then after, we're going to say why you shouldn't, or some cons of the city. So the first city is Blaine. The Bengals.
The Bengals. State champions. Dave Nelson, state champions in, gosh, what was that year? It was before he went to Minnetonka. But anyways, it's beside the point. Andy, that's I think a place you're very familiar with.
Yeah, I've officed there 20 some years. So Blaine's fantastic. When I moved up there 20 years ago, seemed like sod fields and garbage truck companies and construction companies. And there was no restaurants, there was no anything. Over the last 20 years, they put the TPC in there. They put in the lakes development in there with those high-end clients, brought the need for retail and restaurants. And now there's, the National Sports Center was installed there years ago. And so there's a lot of cool draws of that area that I really have learned to appreciate. And it used to also be kind of just stuck with Highway 65 because the far east side of Blaine was never developed. Now the far east side of Blaine is developed. So you have easy access off like Lexington down to 35, great schools. Now you get over to that side of town, you're looking at like Centennial schools, you have District 11. So you have a variety of cool things going on. And they also have a Fleet Farm over there. So that obviously puts that city at the top of my list.
I would say some negatives is it's north of 94. So that's a problem. It's just a different...
negatives later, not negatives now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chris.
Sorry.
Next one.
I don't know Blaine that well. I rely on Mr. Andy on that. Lakeville, I know that one a little better. Lakeville is probably one of the biggest growing places. I know, Andy, your builder builds a lot down there. That's where we're kind of stationed as well, is in the Lakeville area. And there's tons of room for growth still. Lakeville has split up into 2 high schools, and I wouldn't doubt a third would come out of that area as well, because they have, very usable land. They have a ton of, I mean, when it comes to shopping and entertainment and access is really good as well. You know, being on 35 and Cedar and everything is kind of right there. 42 is kind of the big one that goes through. And then there's kind of some old town to it too. To me, there's kind of an old downtown. They have tons of parks. They got Lifetime. It's a up and coming. Well, it's came, but it's still coming. It's still getting bigger and better. And there's a lot of affordable housing in there too.
I agree with that. I think that the little limited access I've had to it, they have really nice, like you said, land available. I think you'll see a lot of growth in that area over the next, 20, 30 years. I mean, they have enough, open fields and capacity to grow. And I do think that in the near future, though, the access to the roadways and things like, unless everybody works from home, it eventually is going to create a need for upgrade. Like I think Cedar could be 5 lanes wide and still, would be, what I'm saying? It's like eventually I think they could see congestion issues, but nowadays with everybody working remotely or somewhat remotely, and it's kind of a cool setup over there. I like it.
St. Louis Park. I think St. Louis Park is a very interesting area. It's just kind of a little on the outskirts, but it has some really cool areas, some cool topography. They have, I mean, when we talk about access again, it's fantastic from an access point. That's a lot of millennial. It's a big millennial area as well, and they got golf courses. Fantastic dining now. I mean, over on Excelsior and Grand area.
That West End, yeah, like you were talking, that we hear all the time. That's a perfect location for lots of people because it's in the middle of everything.
Yeah. So it's I mean, St. Louis Park is an interesting area. Now it's a different type of living, a different type of home that you're getting from a Blaine or a Lakeville. It's an older set of homes, but a lot of them are getting redone. And Bunnies is there. I mean, what else do you want?
Can't forget Bunnies.
No.
Oh man, no, I agree with you. I think that there's I like that for a lot. I think the biggest thing I like about St. Louis Park is its location and easy access to everything. Lots of great freeways, lots of great even boulevards that have big wide boulevards and bus and access to downtown, and great city. Like I said, I like the entertainment concept, like we were just talking about too, with West End and a lot of those neat spots. I mean, I don't know. I could go on and on about that place, but it's just a fun place to live. And then what I kind of like about cities that also have older housing stock is it allows people to come in there and renovate it and make it their own, and it still is in what I consider to be kind of affordable housing. And it can, these 1.5 stories that are everywhere. Pounding out a nice 4-season porch or a screen porch off the back and a deck, and having a nice backyard. A lot of those, depending on what the houses are close together, but they seem to all have decent yards, for city living.
Yeah. No, it's good. There's, I mean, not as much like compared to Minneapolis alley living. It's a lot more, drive up. You got a garage or that you got a driveway that comes into your area.
Right.
A little more. And there's a lot of condominiums there now, and so that Excelsior Grand area that I was talking about, they have, all the retail and everything on the main floor, and then they have the condos up top.
Well, and what a fun place to live in those condos. I had, my brother had a couple of his friends living in that area, and they're like, yeah, we jump on our bikes and we're down to Calhoun in like 3 minutes. So kind of fun. So
it's a little out of the city, but real close to get there. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, baby! Here comes the thunder.
I don't know. Here's a kind of a fun little fact, Andy Prasky. Back in probably 93 to 95, I did a lot of work up in that Champlin, Brooklyn Park area. It's been a couple of years, but
there's a lot of stuff going on up here.
Yeah, I had some clients that started up there, then their friends wanted it, and their friends, and their friends, and I really liked it. I always looked at Champlin kind of as that was kind of the next step up. Am I right? From a Brooklyn Park area, that it was kind of the next, like you got more second home type homes.
I always thought of Champlin too as being a part of it. The east side of Champlin, not on the river, but there was a lot of very affordable houses that were built. Kind of a sleeper drive-by town, because most people, you say Champlin, they go, well, where is that? And you go, south of Anoka. And they go, oh, Anoka. So it's like a lot of people, I mean, I didn't even really understand know where Champlin was before I moved here. I lived in Brooklyn Park, for God's sake.
Where does it start and stop, kind of? Where
it's 109th is kind of, and it's kind of a triangle, goes basically straight across and then up the river and then back down through Dayton, right on, what is that street over there? Zachary, something like that. It goes down, but it's pretty good size. And then over the years, Champlin and Dayton have kind of collaborated together quite a bit as they now are expanding their sewers and restaurants, and they shared electric and through Anoka Electric and a few of those things. But positive things about Champlin, I think they believe it or not, over the years, they were kind of the drive-by community. And the big city plan was, let's put in some stoplights to stop that highway traffic, so people will buy stuff in our town as they're driving through. And I think it kind of became not what they planned. And so there's all kinds of new thoughts going through the process, and they're redeveloping the Champlin riverfront. I don't know if you've been up here recently. They're adding restaurants. They've got a My Boat Club. They're trying to tie the river into the Champlin name so that everybody knows that we're right on the Mississippi, and it's really cool. Restaurants, schools, Twin Cities Twisters, I was saying that earlier, is up here. So all the gymnastics, a lot of people come over for gymnastics. There was Champlin Park, which was built, 20-some years ago, but still is a great high school, great sports teams. We're always, if you watch between Lakeville and Champlin, they're always in the top 10 in almost every sport. I always say Champlin was the king of taking second place at state for years, for baseball, basketball, whatever. And they are volleyball. They took a state championship. My daughter was on that team. A lot of proud papas in town here, mamas. With those girls, they were absolutely a fantastic squad. Something I'll never forget. So I thank them every time I see those girls. It was a lot of fun. Good coach.
Nothing better.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I almost see. That's my alma mater right there. Prior Lake, alma mater. What
were you going to say? Should we go to Prior Lake, or are you going to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say about Champlin, it kind of reminds me a little of Savage in a way. And why I say that is because it's kind of like there's a big road that goes right through the middle of it, and it's like you can go through it and then totally miss it. It's not like you go through a little town or something. You go through a lot of commercial and stuff, and that's what Savage is. And Savage is big, but it's kind of like it gets lost. And like I don't know where Champlin starts and where it ends, and I think that's
well, when you're coming north on 169, and there's all of a sudden there's open fields on both sides of the road. That's Brooklyn Park. And once you get north of 610, that's all Brooklyn Park till you get to about 109th, where you start seeing the commercial buildings again. Right. Most of Champlin is developed. There's a few little pockets left, but it's almost fully developed. And that's where they're, like I was saying with the riverfront, they're talking redevelopment now. That's a conversation being had, redeveloping certain areas, improving roads. They're going back through now and putting new curb and gutter in some areas. Every year they do a couple new streets, upgrade the sewers. So it's cool. I love it here. It's very nice. Great access to everything. Nice way to sneak out of town. You can shoot right up the river road, and 5 seconds out of my house, driving up the old river road, all of a sudden you feel like you're in a different place. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful big trees and the river and rolling hills and farm fields, and it's a nice secret. Don't tell anybody. Getaway.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to sell any houses anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, Prior Lake. I think that last name of this thing is kind of what Prior Lake is. It's the whole town is basically centered around the lake on both sides. There's a lot of things that are around here. Mystic Lake Casino is kind of a big one that I've only been there twice since I've been 18 years old because I didn't fare too well at that 18-year-old time, and I go to Vegas instead. But you won't even believe it if you haven't been to Mystic Lake. What it looks like now, it's crazy. I mean, they've done a heck of a job, and they're getting music in there and stuff. But the lake is kind of the big draw. It's about 1,400 acres, about 20 miles of shoreline. It's split up into Upper and Lower Pryor. Lower Pryor is bigger, kind of more accessible to get across the city, get across to like for commuting. And Prior Lake is kind of, there's a lot of construction that's been happening as well in and around Prior Lake, kind of in that 500 to 700, and then you start kind of getting out a little. And on the lake, I mean, we just finally had a house resale for $4.5 million. It's the highest resale one that we've had, but I would say there's a good 10 houses that are over 5 million now. It's really hard to get on the lake under $1 million. Under 900 is hard in which to be able to find something. And schools are good.
Very good.
Yeah. So
I was going to say, the other thing that, a lot of people don't put into account, but the guys like me that are from up north, I never would have ever been to a Prior Lake because access was so hard until they punched 169 right across that old river. And now Prior Lake's literally 20 minutes from my house in Champlin. I shoot right down 169. I'm there in no time. It's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Well, it took maybe 30.
And we just took you and I did a photo shoot, right?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the invite to come back and take a ride on that fancy pontoon you got.
Yep, anytime. Now that I'm an empty nester, my daughter just left. She's on the road on the way to Arizona.
Jeez.
I'm meeting them down there on Saturday. I'm letting them drive. It's
and then you're gonna fly first class.
Yeah, mom-daughter time is a good time for them. So.
I got to do the same thing on Friday. We're moving Hannah into college. They're starting volleyball already on Monday.
Yeah.
All right. Why shouldn't we move to Lakeville? What are the cons?
School rivalries, terrible. No, a lot of people. You're not going to have that small town thing. I think it's going to continue to grow. I think when you do have growth, sometimes taxes, you have to build the stuff in anticipation of people coming. So some people get caught up on the tax part of it, and you might not like that.
Agreed. I think that they'll have growing pains over the next few years as you get used to all those new people showing up and using amenities and using roads and using schools. That it'll just be a growing period for quite a few years. I think you'll feel like you're in growth mode down there for a long time. Some people don't want that. Some people want to move into a more settled area. New construction, dirt blows in the air, garbage blows around. I mean, it's the way it is. Now, I guess not to go back to positives, but positives of new construction are they keep prices going up steadily in that area, which usually shows appreciation on the existing market as well. So that's a positive thing. Even though it's cons, I know it's supposed to be cons, but it's hard for me to do cons.
Mm-hmm.
Next city, Champlin Park. There's nothing wrong with Champlin Park.
I guess I've noticed. I think here's what I think. Just perception, because I don't know for sure, but is I think lack of community. I think it seems to me more like a commercial place, but I could be totally wrong. I've been at Andy's house a bunch of times, and all the neighbors get along and they all hang out. So I don't mean it like that. I mean it kind of like there's not like a central square, that you all go to and have like concerts and music in the park and stuff like that. Like a Chaska is really cool.
Yeah. So that's what that river development is for. Yeah. They and everybody agrees with that. That's the forefathers that allowed them to cut that. You had East and you have West Champlin. West Champlin was your high end side, with the exception of up the river. I mean, up the river, you got your multi-million-dollar properties. Some of the pro athletes actually live up on the river in Champlin. So that part, it's hard for me to pick on Champlin because I love it. I agree with you though that there is. I don't know what I can pick on in Champlin. I don't know. I don't know. I think the logo of Champlin Park, we stole it from the Patriots, and so that really upsets me that we can't have our own logo.
That's true.
Other than that, I think we're fine.
Good.
Actually, you know what's funny, Chris? I shouldn't even say this. We bought the New England Patriots helmet that they actually used to have on their football field, and that the NFL team used to run through. Champlin Park Booster Club bought that and brought it to Champlin, and now our guys on football night run through there with a big Harley and vroom, 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 and they run out on the field with the Harley, and their guys all run out there. It's awesome. Actually pretty awesome. Everybody gets all pumped up.
Well, I would say the same thing about Blaine. I'm not as familiar there, but I would go with the lack of sense of community. That it's big and it's growing. One high school, there's a ton of people in that school. So if you're looking, maybe you have you want your kid in activities and stuff, and they're going to be competing a lot against people and maybe not have the opportunities that they would have in, say, a smaller area like a Jordan or whatever,
Yeah, Blaine is huge. It is. You could have a couple towns with Blaine. We used to call there down by like Circle Pines. We used to call that Blaineville. There's a little side of Blaine that is on the other side of 35W, and it's so there are. You're right. There are some the major, just like even Minneapolis, the freeway systems that go through these towns, literally cut the town into pockets. And there a lot of times it's not a downtown. It's just being developed, in micro communities. So those communities have their togetherness and their restaurants and their grocery stores and their whatever. But like you're saying, it doesn't have a quote, let's go downtown. So they're more of a suburban designed community.
But there's that TPC course there though, right?
Yeah.
They do the senior tour. Yeah. So, I mean, they
have the National Sports Center there. They have teams come from all over the world. If you're into soccer, that's where they all come. It's right. The community is actually, I've worked there for years. It's impressive. I've enjoyed it. The development out there, there's still lots of space to be developed. But that I don't think 20 years, but they might have another 10 years of development space to do. And then that'll be full. And then when you jump up to Ham Lake, what's really interesting, the dynamics of that, Ham Lake then is we're acreage. We're not gonna be the smaller suburban lot style community. So you jump to Ham Lake, and all of a sudden they're big estates. So it's kind of a cool area.
Yeah.
I mean, negative area. Wait.
No, nothing's negative.
Nothing.
St. Louis Park, the cons of St. Louis Park. I think
the logo.
A lot of infrastructure changes. A lot of construction that's happening in trying to open that up. Small lots, not as private of an area to go. You're closer to the city. I mean, that could be a positive and a negative depending on how you look at it. And I think it's also chopped up by Highway 100 and 169 and Excelsior Boulevard. It's just kind of it's a choppy area. 7.
Well, I think that Chris, it's interesting you say that, because I think some people prefer that because then they live in a quiet neighborhood. All the chaos and the shopping and the traffic's on the other side of the road, or whatever. So I can see pros and cons to that.
Totally. Prior Lake. Well, we actually moved out of it. We went to Minnetonka for 9 years. So you can ask the other guy that's...
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
Yeah, the logo on his head. So it actually turned out really well. But anyways, I would say Prior Lake doesn't have a lot of commercial stuff, and it's probably not going to have it. And that obviously hurts the tax base, which reflects on, your own taxes. So taxes might be a little higher. Pricing's pretty high in it, and it's long, so maybe for commuting it might not be as great. Even though you're right, 169 and the old ferry bridge is opened up, and you still got 35 to cross, but you still have to cross it. And in traffic times from and to work is, it's a problem. Are you going to say because I live here, Andy?
No, that's too low hanging fruit for me.
That's too easy.
Actually, I like you, so I can't pick on you that way.
Hey, our last thing is the previous clients you've had, where have been the best places they've retired to? You know, for our older listeners that maybe are thinking of getting out of Minnesota.
Well, I've seen where a lot of those older people will do a drawing around hospitals, or if they require any kind of additional, if they have ailments or they need to, visit some kind of therapist or whatever, they want to be reasonably close to that. That makes life easier. If you're in an area where you don't want to drive, like eventually you may drive now, but let's say you get a little older and you don't want to drive anymore, you have access to transportation, things like that. But the other thing is that, a lot of older people, teenagers as we call them, they want to party. They retire and they want to have drinks at 4:00 on the driveways and go golfing in the afternoon, and they want to have a good time. So making sure to find a community that is mirroring your lifestyle. I know I'm around several people in that age group, and they some want it quiet and they want to read books, and others want to be playing pickleball every afternoon and getting crazy and rowdy with their buddies having shots. So it really depends on the individual.
My people are healthy people, so they don't worry about hospitals. But they go to Florida and Arizona. Florida and Arizona.
Why?
What?
Isn't it taxes?
Fun and
state
fun.
Tax?
And well, yeah. I mean, and taxes. I don't know if Arizona's got state tax and all, but
I know Florida doesn't. So
Florida,
that's been the draw. And Texas, same with Texas. Southern Texas they've been bragging about that for years.
Sun and water. It's interesting too. Some people talk about like Florida and the humidity during the summer, but then they're fine to stay in Arizona during the summer, which I don't get. But I'm Florida guy. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm
even seeing some people with our buddy Mark Pedig was telling us a lot of people are moving up to like even Brainerd, Baxter, and they're not even living on the lakes necessarily. They're living off the lake in a quiet community where it's nice and quiet, easy access to shopping, but there's golf courses close, there's great restaurants close, and then if they want to go boating, they put their boat in for the day and go fishing. So it's
keep the cost down and then travel. That's another thing. I think that's a big thing. People are just moving out kind of to an area that they got a home base that's not going to cost them a small fortune to be able to do it, that they have to stay there, but yet get out and travel and go visit and see other people, which I like that idea too.
Awesome. What do you guys got going on coming up?
Work. I'm actually going this weekend. I'm going to Arizona to move my little daughter in. And so I'm going to see, hopefully I don't know if Nick knew this, but I had a very hard time when he went away. And I'm hoping that this doesn't happen again.
It's hard, man. When you're sitting there, I was trying to be all tough when I dropped my son off at when he started down at Iowa State, and sitting in the truck. I'm like, all right, see you, buddy. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. And then Lisa's out there and starts crying in front of the car, and I'm like, oh crap, here we go. And then all of a sudden I start going, and I sat there all tough. Like,
I was driving, had my glasses on. And then Chris is trying to talk to me. I'm like, no, there's no talking right now.
Yeah.
And I was only a couple hours away too.
I know, but you got to remember too, my life was totally wrapped up in everything you did. I mean, I coached, I did all that stuff, and it was just kind of like it was done. So
that is a lifestyle change for sure, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it wrong that you like having your kids go to college? Because after I got over
my stance on college. I don't know if I have to get it. That could be another rant of me. So,
yeah, well, that's okay.
Unless you know what you're gonna do. I don't think it doesn't do nothing for me. So I don't know. I think it's great education, but you can read and learn everything you ever wanted to know on YouTube. So just saying.
Well, no, you're right. No doubt. I agree with that.
And it costs a lot less money. So
well, no kidding. You look at some of these kids, spending $200,000 to get a degree that won't support paying the debt back. So what are you doing to society too? It's like, I don't know. I'm not even picking any particular category. I'm just saying in general, sometimes the math isn't there to add up to paying for.
Sold a house. I sold a house to a guy, 38 years old, $1,200 a month in school payments. and not even in that degree anymore. 38, still at $1,200. So
just listen to the Real Estate Radio Hour. That's your education. Make sure to share it. Shoot us some likes on Facebook. We do clips, 3 of them every week. We're on every platform, streaming, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Leave us a review on iTunes if you can, and share with a friend. Another good episode.
Hey,
Hasta la vista.
hasta la vista.
Where's the outro? There it is.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.